So you guys remember when I said this in a video? Samsung Dex or Chrome OS? I think it largely depends on what you want to use it for. Yeah, turns out I might have been a little bit wrong about that. Yeah, let's talk about that. So yeah, I still mostly have the same opinion that I had before. Samsung Dex I think is great as an option if you already own a device that is Samsung Dex capable. Fairly recent Galaxy S phone or Galaxy S tablet. I think, like I said in the video before, I think it's starting with the Galaxy S8, I think is the first device that had Dex. It might have been the 9, but I think it was the 8. And then also starting with the Galaxy Tab S4. Those are the first devices that had Dex on them. And I think Dex is still a great option if you already own one of those devices. Even more so with a tablet, because you don't need any additional hardware in order to run Samsung Dex. With a cell phone, you need something like a Next dock or a USB-C monitor, or something like that. Granted, you can just run it with a monitor and use your phone as the keyboard and trackpad, but I find that to be very inconvenient to try to do. So if you have a tablet, especially, yeah, then I say go for Samsung Dex. I would not necessarily spend the money to go out and buy a Chromebook thinking it's going to make a massive difference in your life. That being said, if you are starting from nothing, if you are thinking, I may just go ahead and get a Samsung phone that lets me run Samsung Dex, or maybe I'll go ahead and grab that Galaxy S8 Plus or S9, whatever the case may be. Or maybe I'll go ahead and grab a Chromebook. If that's kind of where you're on the fence about, as much as I hate to say it, because I love Samsung stuff, go for the Chromebook, man. Like, honestly, go for the Chromebook. I tried using Samsung Dex for about 3 days. I tried using Dex 100% the same way that I tried using a Chromebook without using a Windows laptop, a MacBook, whatever the case may be. I tried doing the same thing with Samsung Dex, and it was so massively inconvenient. There are two major issues. I won't say major, but there are two primary. There we go. There are two primary issues with Samsung Dex that makes it inconvenient more often than Chrome OS being inconvenient. Those two things are, first of all, the lack of a dedicated desktop class browser. Yes, you can run Google Chrome in desktop mode. Yes, you can run Samsung Internet in desktop mode. At the end of the day, there are still websites that recognize what you're running on is a mobile device. It will show you either the mobile version of that website, or the website does not display properly because it recognizes that ultimately you're not using a desktop class browser. You're using the mobile version of the browser, because even in desktop mode, Chrome for Android is still Chrome for Android. It is not the full browser version that we get in Chrome OS, which allows you to do things like use extensions and stuff like that. It is simply Chrome for Android. That's probably the first thing that's kind of like a primary issue that can be irritating at times. The second thing Samsung Dex does not allow you to use a secondary monitor, meaning I can't have Dex running on my tablet and then use a second monitor as an extended screen for Samsung Dex. It will not let you. The closest you can get is if you go into settings and then I believe under mouse and pointer or something like that, then you can go to like advanced settings and it will show you what's called flow control. What that means is if you're using a Bluetooth keyboard and mouse, if you're using Dex, like let's say you have a Samsung tablet, right? If you use Dex on an external display, your mouse and keyboard will flow over to your tablet as if it's just one seamless device. Now, you can copy files over that way. You can copy pictures, Word documents, PDFs. I can drag one from Dex and drag it over to my tablet. You cannot do that with applications. So if I am running Google Chrome on Samsung Dex on the monitor, and then I open Google Chrome on my tablet, it's going to close Google Chrome on my monitor. Because at the end of the day, while it will allow you to have two separate instances of one application running, those instances have to be running in either Dex or on the physical tablet itself. You cannot split those instances up between the tablet and Dex on the external display. That can get very irritating that very quickly. In addition to the fact that when you're using Dex and your tablet as a second screen, and I put that in major air quotes, when you're using your tablet as the second screen, your tablet is still tablet interface. So like in Samsung Dex, you have the options at the top of the window to minimize, maximize, to resize, all that other kind of stuff. When you're messing with a mouse and keyboard on the tablet and you're already running Dex on an external monitor, you unfortunately don't have all those options. You're using the tablet the same way that you would use the tablet interface. So while there are things that you can do to kind of help out a little bit, if you go into your settings, there is an option for forcing all windows to be resizable on your tablet, as well as having a little bar at the top that you can click, and when you click it, it gives you the option. Do you want to minimize this window? Do you want to close it? Or do you want to put it into a split view where half is on one side, half is on the other? And it does give you those options. However, it does not work. It works. It just does not work the way that you would want it to work when you were using a mouse and keyboard. It is infuriating that Samsung will not just allow you to use Dex on two displays. Android already has the capability of doing it within the Android source code. The only reason it's not happening is because for whatever reason, Samsung doesn't want it to. Now, the only reason, the only grace that I could give Samsung for saying, we don't want you running Dex on both the tablet and an external display at the same time, is that running Dex on both, having it flow over that way, could cause a lot of battery drain. And they could be thinking in their minds, we don't want that to happen. We want somebody to be able to use Dex and for the most part be able to, use it the same way that they would use their tablet. Not use Dex and then their tablet is dead, 2 hours later. That part I could understand. However, just as Samsung has implemented code that says if your phone is not if it's not using, what does Samsung call it? Super fast charging and super fast charging 2.0. Basically, if your phone is not charging at 25 watts or 45 watts, you cannot use power share at the same time. And I know some of you might be watching this and thinking, yes, you can. I do it all the time. Ever since the S21 Ultra, you can no longer do that. You can do it all the way up until the Note 20. The Note 20 would allow you to use power sharing and just a regular, 15 watt charger at the same time. It will not allow you to do that anymore. Why? Because Samsung implemented into code that you can't do that. Okay, that's fine. Just like they did that, they could say, if you're going to use Dex on both the tablet display and an external monitor, you have to be plugged up via USB-C and charging, which means either it's charging through the monitor or you're hooked up to an external dock that is providing power to the tablet. I could see them saying that, and I would honestly be okay with that. That would make sense to me. But no, Samsung doesn't want to do that. Why they don't want to do that? I don't know. I wish I had an answer for you, but I don't. Chrome OS being able to push multiple displays is a major deal. I've used Chrome OS personally and pushed output to two 4K displays in addition to my Chromebook. That honestly is a game changer when it comes to productivity. Now, if you only need one external display, none of that stuff that I just talked about is going to affect you. Why? Because you're only using one screen anyway. You can plug your phone in or plug your tablet in, set it off to the side. You're doing everything right there on that display with the mouse and keyboard. Now, I do have a 34-inch curved display, and I will say using Samsung Dex with that does make it easier, even though I don't have dual displays, just because the display is so big that you can split apps and all that other kind of stuff and still have plenty of space to work with. And Samsung, I hope you hear this. I know you won't. My channel's not nearly big enough for you to be paying attention to it. But if you are by chance paying attention, please fix that, because that would be huge for being able to actually use Samsung Dex for productivity purposes, especially when you consider that your largest tablet that you sell is 14.6 inches. Imagine being able to use that as your primary Dex display and then have a 24-inch monitor next to it. Like, that would be like the icing on the cake. So yeah, I just wanted to give you guys that update real quick, that I was wrong. I'm not afraid to admit it. Just go ahead and get a Chromebook. Like, yeah. So, yeah, let me know your guys' thoughts. If you guys have an opinion on Samsung Dex versus Chrome OS, if you guys like Samsung Dex, do you have a Dex setup? Let me know down in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video.